report. To pull the curtain back, they are currently investigating this in real time, and I know this happened, an hour and change ago, a little bit more. But what essentially is going on is the second they get those results and they publish them to us, we'll bring them to you in real time. That's why it's important to stick with Live Impact News, because that's what we do. There is no real delay from once we get this confirmed with the right agencies. It is a direct pipeline for you to get the answers you are looking for.
And you're seeing it right now as Kevin is moving the camera around, because I think they're about to try and speak with someone
Yes,
here.
It looks like one of the workers from a pizza place there.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can.
Yes, a little earlier this morning, a couple of my employees were on a smoke break, and they were just on the side of the patio. They didn't hear gunshots, but they did see two officers enter into the edibles establishment. They saw one of the officers come out, had blood on his face, and he was being brought out by his partner. And he was down, and then we saw them go back in, like another officer went back in. We understand that the suspect was shot and killed. That's all we heard. But the officers here at Mint Hill, our hearts go out to them because they come to Empire Pizza often and they frequent here. So our prayers go out to them and their families. It's unfortunate the day after Christmas that we have to hear something like this take place. So
I think sometimes it puts in perspective the dangerous job that police officers work.
Absolutely. They're hardworking. They always keep Mint Hill. You never hear anything like this happening in Mint Hill because they do a great job of keeping the place safe, keeping the community safe. And whenever they stop through, we always try to make sure we take care of them and just thank them for their services that they provide to the community.
Can you describe what the scene was like out here, or what did your workers say the scene was like?
It was hard to say what the scene was like because everything happened so quickly. Just seeing the officer and blood on his hands and another one down. Once the paramedics arrived, they started to provide, they didn't have to provide CPR, which was a good sign, which we saw. But we did see that they were down and the EMS tended to him real quickly and, got on it real fast.
Were the officers helping each other, or did it look like they were comforting or helping each other?
The officers were helping each other initially, and then once EMS arrived on the scene, they were really swift in responding, to helping the officer. We saw movement from the officer because once they had him on the gurney, we did see that. So that was a positive sign that we believe that he was okay. We did get word from one of the police officers that we are close friends with that they said that he was, both officers are doing a little bit better. So our prayers just go out to them. We just, wish them all the best. So unfortunate, once again, that this took place day after Christmas.
And you said that when this happened, you told your staff to lock their doors.
Absolutely. Once we heard it, we didn't know because it happened so quickly. We didn't know if it was active shooting taking place. So the response was just to come inside. Let's lock the doors until we get further information. Let's secure our business and make sure everybody's safe. And as the general manager, that's one of my duties, just to make sure that my team is safe, make sure everybody's okay. And then once we get word from law enforcement or the authorities, then we went ahead and then opened up for business. But it's so unfortunate to hear that.
Last thing for me, Kevin, and it's
yes, sir.
What was it like to get that word that those officers are doing better?
That was comforting. Of course, our prayers still go out to them because nobody ever wants to receive that call, family members or their loved ones, that this took place any day, much less the day after Christmas. But to hear that they're at least in stable condition was definitely comforting. And like I said, our prayers are going to continue to go out to them.
So can you say and spell your name again for me?
Sure. First name Kevin, last name Fame, Phayme, pronounced Fame.
Thank you, Kevin.
My pleasure.
That makes our job easier. Just
General manager.
Okay, so that was the general manager of Empire Pizza, a nearby business, recounting what he saw. And it sounds like, from his perspective, he actually got a pretty clear view of what he says happened here. Again, I want to be clear that just because a witness says something does not mean it's confirmed by police. We are still waiting for the public information officer from Mint Hill PD or a neighboring agency to tell us some more information officially from police. But from this man's perspective, his name's Kevin Fame, he says that he also can confirm this may have been more related to the edible arrangements than we originally suspected.
Yeah, it seems like some aspect of it took place inside. At the very least, we know the two officers went inside of that edible arrangements. Mm-hmm. One officer came outside, covered his face in blood with his partner helping him out. Now, we presume, we do not know this is purely conjecture at the time, but we assume the 2 officers that he named, having gone in and out of that edible arrangements, are the ones who are currently battling gunshot wounds. Hopefully, we'll get further clarification from officials soon. But, I mean, this interview with this general manager painting a much clearer picture, I think, of what may have happened earlier this morning.
Yeah, and as we were just kind of hypothesizing maybe what was going on in this situation, but it is odd for a situation like this to happen potentially inside of a business, and so hoping to get some more information on that soon. And it is also, though, good news that he reiterated kind of what Mayor Dalton said about they are awake and alert. He mentioned that, of course, emergency crews were on scene very, very quick. EMS response, I'm sure, was very swift for a
Right.
call like this, but they did not have to perform CPR from what he could see, which is a very good sign. He said at one point the officers were helping each other. And so really speaks to, hopefully, what we really, really hope is going to be a smooth recovery for these 2 officers. So a lot of information that we are still waiting to get, but that definitely helped clear things up. And we're going to have that interview cut pretty quickly here,
Yeah.
so that we can play it back if you missed the first part of that. That first part was really where he kind of unpacked his perspective from what he saw, where you described just the very graphic, seeing the blood and the officers come out. And so we're going to play that back for you in a little bit. Before we go to a quick break, I actually want to bring you to some other breaking news real quick. We have been following this house fire that is related. It's the same house that the 6-year-old girl was found dead in last week. We now know Charlotte Fire Investigation Task Force determined the cause of the fire was intentionally set. This is video from it, and that is a terrible scene to witness here. But we had suspected, because we originally didn't even know. If you were here with us on Live Impact 2 days ago, we didn't know if it was the same house. We just knew it was the same road. We then learned yesterday, I believe, that it is the same house. And now we know that it was intentionally set. We do not know intentionally why. But definitely a lot more questions to be answered here. If you aren't familiar with this story, CMPD is investigating after a child died.
We'll go behind the house.
We actually had one of the suspects in court, I believe, earlier today.
Just want to make sure
Taryn
rats
McKnight,
and stuff is running from the house.
I believe, I'm
But I
hearing
just
the
want to make,
audio on this.
make sure ain't nobody in there.
Sorry, everyone, to reiterate, sorry the fire audio is loud, but just to reiterate what you may have missed, this fire we now know is intentionally set. It is the same house where that 6-year-old girl was found found dead, last week. We know that police say she suffered abuse. There are multiple suspects in this case, one of which was in court earlier. Taryn McKnight was charged in connection to the abuse of that child. And this is, as I said, East Charlotte. This is the same house. And we do not know why the fire was set. We just know that Fire Investigation Task Force says this was a purposeful fire. Hoping to get some more information, especially as we have these multiple suspects now that are going to be going through their initial court appearances, hoping that we get some more information soon on this fire and how it may be related, if at all, to the fact that a child was found dead here. So a really scary scene on Gwynn Hill Road in East Charlotte. So something else we'll keep following, but we are, of course, going to get back to the big story of the day in a couple minutes, which is the 2 officers shot in Mint Hill. Stick with us. Lots to get to. All right, welcome back to the Live Impact Studio. We are, of course, following the breaking news that is 2 officers out of Mint Hill shot and recovering from gunshot wounds. We know the suspect in this case has also been shot and has died. We do not know how that happened at this point. Here's what we do know. I'm going to read you the direct press release that we got about 30 minutes ago, maybe a little bit longer ago now, from Mint Hill Police. This is the full press release. On December 26, 2025, at approximately 10:47 a.m., Mint Hill police officers responded to edible arrangements located at 6832 Matthews Mint Hill Road regarding child custody exchange. During the interaction, the male subject produced a firearm. An exchange of gunfire occurred and 2 Mint Hill police officers were struck. Both officers are in critical condition. The suspect was shot and is deceased. We do not have any more concrete information from police than that. That is all we've been able to find out. We have been able to gather a little bit more from our other officials that we know. For example, Mint Hill Mayor Dale Dalton. He did tell us he does not have much more information than that. All he knows is that both officers are awake and alert. Some small good news in this really scary situation. If you were with us before the break, you also heard from the general manager of that pizza shop right by this, who seems to have seen most of this unfold. He described to us not only what he saw, but also the aftermath of it, including seeing the blood, seeing the officers being awake and helping each other. He also confirmed to us that he did not witness any CPR or anything of the sort. Of course, EMS was very swift in their response for a very, very concerning call like this. But it sounds like that backs up what the mayor said of the officers being awake and alert. That is not to downplay their condition. It's still critical, and we're hoping to get an update on their conditions as soon as possible, and a little bit more information about their injuries. We don't know how many times they were shot. We do not know where they were shot. We don't know their identities at this point. I'm sure police are working to get that information to the families, of course, before it is able to be released to the media and the public. We're also hearing more from our officials. This is obviously, as I said a million times now, a very scary situation, and so it's garnering a lot of response from not just our state representatives, but also our representatives out in D.C. Congressman Pat Harrigan also said praying for the 2 Mint Hill police officers and their families today. This is a painful reminder of the risks our officers take to protect their communities. We also heard earlier, even before we got confirmation from Mint Hill Police, from State Representative Tricia Cotham, who represents an area nearby. She also said, "My heart is with Mint Hill Police. I'm closely monitoring the situation and I'm in contact with authorities. I ask for your prayers for all." Of course, concern from everyone. Everyone, I'm sure, has a lot of questions. What we do know is that multiple different crews are on scene on scene at this investigation. You're looking at a fire truck here. I know our photographer on scene is also talking to people and trying to get some more interviews. So he'll be moving the camera around. We know we have a fire truck. We have seen the State Bureau of Investigation, and we did actually just get that confirmation via NCSBI that they are there, backing up what we have already seen as they help investigate. Again, a very quick turnaround for them to arrive, because we've only had this information for about 30 minutes, and the initial call from Edible Arrangements only came in at around 10:45 a.m., so this is quickly developing. I'm going to read you the NC State Bureau of Investigation post from 4 minutes ago. This is very fresh, and a lot of this does reiterate what we already know. I'm reading this actually for the first time as I am out loud. This is what it says. The SBI has been requested by the Mint Hill Police Department to assist with an officer-involved shooting. SBI agents are on scene near the Edible Arrangement in Mint Hill. At this time, 1 citizen and 2 officers have been shot. The citizen is deceased. The 2 officers have been transported to a medical facility for treatment. That's new. We did not have that officially confirmed. We can gather that, but now we know that confirmed. They are believed to be in critical condition. The Mint Hill Police Department will release additional information when appropriate. The SBI will release information as our investigation progresses. This is not uncommon for a situation like this when you have police officers, any sort of law enforcement shot, to call in an external investigation. Of course, you want to give the officers in the department time and space to be concerned and to be with their families as well in an investigation, but also just to have that backup of people who are not so closely related to the situation is helpful. And on the side of the screen here, if you're just tuning in, you can see what we know so far. Again, just to say, the suspect is dead. He was shot. We do not know who he was or what led up to this or how he was shot. We know 2 officers with the Mint Hill Police Department are in critical condition. We do not know anything on anyone's identities or more other than critical condition. We don't know how many shots were fired, and we don't know when we're going to get more information. What we do have is multiple crews out there. We've got our Jessie Pierre. She's in the region of Dilworth, where there's multiple hospital systems. So she's hoping to catch the scene when those officers, if they are headed to that hospital when they arrive. We know earlier we'd heard of there being some sort of police presence there. That seems to have subsided, so we're not sure if they're going to a different hospital now. That's not uncommon to have a police presence already at the hospital when there's officers on the way needing treatment. We also have our Siobhan Riley, who is on her way to the scene itself to meet Kevin Wardlaw and to hopefully talk to some more people who witnessed this. We heard earlier from the general manager of a pizza shop nearby who witnessed the whole thing unfold. He told us that it actually did have more relation inside the edible arrangements than we initially suspected. That is where the initial call came from. That doesn't necessarily mean in these calls, though, that it happened inside the business. And so that's why I was trying to kind of mitigate that assumption for a second there, because the whole parking lot is blocked off. And so it could have, especially with the situation of a child custody exchange, could have easily happened in the parking lot. But it sounds like, from his perspective, and this is not confirmed by police, it sounds like there was more interaction inside the business than usual for a situation like this. That's what we know so far. Obviously, as I said, a lot of questions still, but we're going to keep pushing for more info. As I've said before, we can't just go talk to a random police officer or State Bureau of Investigations. We have to wait for the official PIO, Public Information Officer, to arrive and to say that they're ready. Even in this SBI Facebook post, they said that Mint Hill Police Department will release additional information when appropriate. So that may mean that they do know more information, but it's not time yet. They have to be careful with when they release info, and that's why I'm being very careful with what I say. I know there's a lot of information that's all over social media, and I know that in a situation like this, it's very typical to want answers fast, but we're going to be as transparent with you as possible, not just about what we know, but about what we don't and why we're not able to confirm things at this time. Taking a quick break, but stick with us. We'll be back in 2. Coming back onto Live Impact News with that breaking news, we've now heard from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Fraternal Order of Police. They reposted the press release from Mint Hill and said, "Our prayers are with the injured officers in the Mint Hill Police Department." Jeb, if you're able to scroll down, notably this first comment is from State Senator Woodson Bradley. She says, quote, "This is awful. My heart goes out to the officers and their families and to the mother who has been dealing with an abusive father of her children that resorted to this. Custodial exchanges are the most dangerous situations for a separated/divorced spouse with an abusive ex. Prayerful recoveries for these officers." That is another angle of this that we haven't gotten a chance to touch on, largely because that's a lot of conjecture for us to figure out what's going on here in the domestic situation. But I do want to point out that that is one of these big questions of not just what happens here, but how is that mother and child doing, assuming that that is what was happening here, is this custodial, this exchange between parents. So a lot of questions that we still have about the familial relationship here that led to this. We do know that there was a call made and then the suspect that has been killed pulled out a firearm. And so there was already some sort of interaction happening that led for that call to happen at the edible arrangements. Still at a live look, they were still zoomed into this fire truck here, one of many crews on the scene. We've seen fire trucks. Of course, we've seen Mint Hill Police. We've also seen the State Bureau of Investigations. They have been called in to help in this investigation. Not unusual for something of this scale, but definitely going to add layers to this investigation as we wait to find out more, hopefully very soon. What we are hearing, though, is from people who witnessed this. Our Kevin Wardlaw, our photographer on the scene, got a chance to speak with the general manager of Empire Pizza right nearby. This is what he had to say.
His name Kevin. Last name is spelled P-H-A-Y-N-E, pronounced Fane.
And then your title.
My title, I'm the general manager here at Empire Pizza in Mint Hill.
Perfect. So talk to us about what some of your employees shared with you today.
So, yes, a little earlier this morning, a couple of my employees were on a smoke break and they were just on the side of the patio. They didn't hear gunshots, but they did see two officers enter into the edibles establishment. They saw one of the officers come out, had blood on his face, and he was being brought out by his partner, and he was down, and then we saw them go back in, like another officer went back in. We understand that the suspect was shot and killed. That's all we heard. But the officers here at Mint Hill, our hearts go out to them because they come to Empire Pizza often and they frequent here. So our prayers go out to them and their families. You know, it's unfortunate the day after Christmas that we have to hear something like this take place. So
I think sometimes
so sad.
It puts in perspective the dangerous job that police officers work. I mean,
absolutely. They're hardworking. They always keep Mint Hill. You never hear anything like this happening in Mint Hill because they do a great job of keeping the place safe, keeping the community safe. And, you know, whenever they stop through, we always try to make sure we take care of them and just thank them for their services that they provide to the community.
Can you describe what the scene was like out here, or what did your workers say the scene was like?
It was hard to say what the scene was like because it was everything happened so quickly. Just seeing the officer and blood on his hands and another one down. Once the paramedics arrived, they started to provide, they didn't have to provide CPR, which was a good sign, which we saw. But we did see that they were down and the EMS tended to him real quickly and, you know, got on it real fast.
Were the officers helping each other, or did it look like they were confident or helping each other?
The officers were helping each other initially, and then once EMS arrived on the scene, they were really swift in responding, you know, to helping the officer. We saw movement from the officer because once they had him on the gurney, we did see that. So that was a positive sign that we believed that he was okay. We did get word from one of the police officers that we are close friends with that they said that he was, you know, both officers are doing a little bit better. So our prayers just go out to them. We just, you know, wish them all the best. So unfortunate, once again, that this took place day after Christmas.
And you said that when this happened, you told your staff to lock their doors.
Absolutely. Once we heard it, we didn't know because it happened so quickly. We didn't know if it was an active shooting taking place. So the response was just to come inside. Let's lock the doors until we get further information. Let's secure our business and make sure everybody's safe. And as the general manager, that's one of my duties, just to make sure that my team is safe, make sure everybody's okay. And then once we get word from law enforcement or the authorities, then we went ahead and then opened up for business. But it's so unfortunate to hear that.
Last thing for me, Kevin, and it's
Yes, sir.
what was it like to get that word that those officers are doing better?
That was comforting. Of course, our prayers still go out to them because nobody ever wants to receive that call, family members or their loved ones, that this took place any day, much less the day after Christmas. But to hear that they're at least in stable condition was definitely comforting. And like I said, our prayers are going to continue to go out to them.
So can you say and spell your name again for me?
Sure. First name Kevin, last name Fame, Phayme, pronounced Fame.
Thank you, Kevin.
My
That makes
pleasure.
perspective.
Thank you.
That makes our
My
job
pleasure.
easier. Just
General Manager, Empire Pizza, Mint Hill.
Kevin Fame there with Empire Pizza, who was recounting the entire experience from his perspective, which must have been incredibly upsetting to witness it. He did a very good job remaining calm and explaining what he saw, which included the blood. It included some of this interaction, although some of it sounds like it did potentially happen inside the edible arrangements. And so that really adds to the picture of what happened here. But again, a lot of questions that are still unanswered, and I just want to be clear. Although I know that that must have been a really, really scary thing to witness, we have to wait for Mint Hill Police or another official to confirm that that is what happened. So this is all, we're going to keep getting witnesses to speak to us. I know Siobhan, I believe, just arrived within the last couple minutes and is going to get a chance to speak to some witnesses as well in the area, which I imagine there's probably quite a few more. There's a lot of businesses here. But know that we are going to have to wait for officials to give us that confirmed information before we are able to say, yes, that's what happened. So this is just to add some paint to the picture here, some context, but something that has been adding up between every source that we've talked to, including not just witnesses, but also the mayor of Mint Hill, is that it seems as though the officers, both of them, were alert and awake despite critical condition. And so that is a sliver of some good news here. We know that they are on their way to the hospital. The State Bureau of Investigations did confirm that a little while ago. Unclear which hospital they're going to. I know there's been some chatter online about maybe them going to the Atrium Hospital in Dilworth. Our reporter is in that area waiting to see if that is the case. When she arrived there wasn't as much of a police presence anymore, and so we're waiting to get some more information on that. But know that we are trying to figure out the hospital angle of this as well. There's kind of like three chunks of what we still have to know here is the condition of the officers. Who are they? How are they doing? It's what happened here, what led up to this, how did the suspect get shot and killed, how did this happen in the first place, because of course there was a call at this edible arrangements before the suspect pulled a gun in front of officers. They had to be there first. And then there's the angle of the domestic situation. How is the child involved in this custody dispute? How is the mother presumably doing right now? Where are they? Are they getting resources? A lot of questions right now. Some of them I think we're going to get a lot sooner than others. I'm hoping we get that update on the officers very quickly, very promptly. But again, it sounds like so far from the mayor and witnesses that things are looking scary but positive.
And I think it's worth noting for folks tuning in or folks watching either on YouTube or Facebook or WCNC Plus, our streaming app, that we have been carrying this event live since it happened. We are expecting there to be a press conference from officials. That is typical with a situation like this. So make sure you stick with us here on WCNC Plus, Live Impact News, for the latest developments as they come. Like Julie said, our Siobhan Riley getting on the scene now, doing the reporting, asking the tough questions to the public information officers there, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you live a press conference as soon as it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that press conference is soon, but wherever that press conference is, we will be there. We've got, as Jeb mentioned, multiple crews in different locations as we work to get this information confirmed and work to get some context from witnesses who unfortunately had to see this really scary situation the day after Christmas. But yeah, as I said, probably a lot of witnesses potentially. This is a large shopping area. I'm actually going to pull this picture back up, this live picture. I know it's the same, but I just want to point out we got the edible arrangements, a business right next door, and then right off screen is a Publix. And so you can imagine the day after Christmas, probably pretty busy, people cleaning up after the holidays, people that are just going about their normal grocery shopping after having, all these holiday meals. This would be the day that people are getting back potentially to doing their day-to-day live things. And this area, Matthews Mint Hill Road, is a big area for that in this part of the city. And so presumably there's more people we can talk to paint a picture of what happened here. But we're going to let our crews do a little bit more reporting out in the field. We will come back in 2 minutes with what we find out. Welcome back to Live Impact News. It's just about 1:30 here on this string of breaking that we have. I want to get to something new that we have. We're having some more information from local officials. This is Ken McCool, I believe former commissioner who's now running for a state position. He said today's violence in Mint Hill is heartbreaking. My thoughts are with the 2 officers who were critically injured, their families, and the entire Mint Hill Police Department. I'm grateful to the first responders and medical professionals who acted quickly and bravely. That is actually something that we're hearing from witnesses there too. You heard a little bit ago from a witness there who described how fast EMS was able to respond to this scene, even though, even in the moments there where those officers were trying to help themselves and there was visible blood, of course, after an unknown amount of shots were fired. But the general manager of that pizza shop said it was very impressive how fast they were able to respond to this. Hoping to get some more information, though, of course, on how they're doing. We do know they're in critical condition, serious condition. We know that also from the mayor and from the witnesses that they're awake and speaking. I also think we're hearing from, Jeb, I don't know if you have this, from Senator Tom Tillis.
Yeah, we're going to get that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to read this out. Susan and I are praying for Mint Hill police officers who were shot in the line of duty. Our hearts are with their families and fellow officers. God bless all those who serve and protect. So we're hearing from people at all levels of government now, really. We're hearing from town commissioners. We heard from State Representative Tricia Cotham. We heard from State Senator Woodson Bradley in the comments, actually, of one of these posts. And now we're hearing from U.S. Senator for North Carolina, Tom Tillis. This is, of course, something that is so scary that it's going to make the news rounds very, very quickly. But again, I know a lot of us have probably heard this on social media first or saw things on social media first. So we're going to be very clear about what is confirmed by police and what isn't. Here's a live look at the scene now. It hasn't changed much since we've started streaming about an hour ago now, pretty much the entire time talking about the shooting. Still, the area's pretty blocked off. We do know that this happened somewhat at the edible arrangements. We don't know how much of this was inside versus outside the building. That is where the call was initially made at 10:47 this morning, child custody exchange dispute. We know that the suspect, a man, pulled out a gun in front of officers after the call. We don't know what led up to the call. I imagine some sort of dispute, but we do not know what that actually looks like, what led to the call in the first place. We know there was some form of exchange of gunfire, and the suspect was shot and killed. We do not know how. We don't know how many times the two officers were shot. We do know that they're on their way to a hospital. We've seen rumors as well that it would be at the atrium in Dilworth. We have a crew there waiting to see if that is in fact the case, because of course we want to get to what everyone's curious about now is how are the officers doing. And that's just one of, really I'm kind of putting it into three buckets of things we need to find out: of the condition of the officers, what happened here, and how the child and presumably the mother are doing in this situation. So there's a lot more questions that we still have. Jeb, I'm not sure if we want to get back to any more sound. We want to take a break. What are you thinking?
We can kind of talk about where this happened for folks tuning in. Here's a map of where it happened. So for context, depending on how long you've been watching, you've heard us talk to the general manager of this Empire Pizza right here. So this is the vantage point, and where I have this pin, this 6832, that's where this shooting actually happened. So when the manager talks about his employees' vantage point for when they saw, it's this pizza shop to this edible arrangements. Now, as I zoom out, we have these roads. Brighton Park Drive right here is one I want to pay attention to right here. It is solid red. Now, this is the vantage point from which our photographer is actually shooting the scene. You've been able to kind of see it there. It is blocked off right now by police and law enforcement as they continue that investigation. So if for whatever reason you're heading out to this area, avoid Brighton Park Drive, and frankly, avoid Lawyers Road as well. We're seeing some red backups here. I mean, there's several instances of heavy congestion here on Evans Road as well. I mean, anytime you have two police officers involved in a shooting like this, it is a massive response from law enforcement across the county, across the state. You have investigators coming from all different bodies, so it leads to a massive backup and really shuts down all around. We did hear from the Empire Pizza a general manager there who did tell us that they are taking orders. I imagine many of these businesses are still open, but understand that if you are planning to go to any of the businesses in these areas, it will likely take significant traffic and time to get there, so pack your patience.
Yeah, especially knowing that today is probably a busy day for people getting out there, but we also just want to make sure not only are you not stuck in traffic, we want to make sure we give officials their space as they deal with this very serious investigation. We know that there are multiple crews on scene. This is a zoomed in look at the edible arrangements, but you can see it close up. You can still see the caution tape, and in the corner in the left there you can see one of the vehicles, one of many vehicles of different departments. We know not just Mint Hill Police Department is there, but also the State Bureau of Investigations has been called in to help, and so this is a very big scene, even though it is cleared, and it seems that there's of course no threat to the public because the suspect has been killed. You can actually see investigators going in there now. This is a really interesting look, actually. Some people wearing gloves, of course, to not mess with any evidence. That is the SBI. You can see on the back of her jacket there, SBI agent. So that's a really interesting real-time look into them going in there, inside the edible arrangements. And that, Jed, that actually kind of adds to our question of, did this happen inside the establishment or outside of it? A child custody exchange, you'd imagine would happen outside in a parking lot.
Right.
But from everything we've heard thus far, it's actually pointing more towards the assumption that it happened inside at least part of this interaction.
Right. So what we heard from the general manager of the pizza place that was across the street was that his employees actually saw the officers go in, and you can see actually some flashing from the windows there. That's them taking pictures for evidence to analyze back in their laboratories. He said that they saw two officers go in, and then when they saw the officers come out, it was two officers. One actually had lots of blood on their face, so that would actually that would indicate to us that some level of this interaction happened within the edible arrangement. But to your point, Julie, when you hear of a custody arrangement, and traditionally, I do feel like they are generally outside in parking lots on the road. You know, it's a very interesting that it would be in an edible arrangement. Probably not long after they opened, to be frank. I mean,
Right.
it happened at, just after 10 o'clock this morning. It's very interesting to me. So I'm hoping in this press conference that we're planning to bring, that we're hoping happens, and if it does, we'll bring it to you live here on Live Impact News. We're hoping to get new details about what led up to this, because I think that's the big question that everybody has right now.
And that is pretty typical that we would get a press conference pretty soon here. The police is also aware of the fact that we have newscasts. Most of the newscasts in the region are at 4 or 5. That's when they begin. And so they're actually, because they want the information out there if they need help in this investigation.
Exactly.
They're
want to
pretty
ease
good about
minds.
this.
They want to make sure that people who are, I think a lot of you, I will tell you, we have lots of you. We see you guys tuning in. We're seeing your questions being texted into us.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the community has a lot of questions. And, remember, the police and law enforcement, that is a community bot. They serve the community. They want to answer your questions. The reason that we don't have those answers right now is because they want to make sure that through the course of this investigation, through the course of the day, that when they finally do disseminate that information, it is the correct information, and they have all the details in order and can give you the right details.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why in a situation like this, it's typical that we'll get a press conference at some point. We don't know that that is going to happen here because this is also a very sensitive situation, as most crimes like this. We're going to take a quick break real quick because I know that we have Jessie actually standing by, our Jessie Pierre, at the hospital. And hopefully she has some more information for us. So stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes with that information. Welcome back to WCNC Plus, sticking with this breaking news and getting right out to our Jessie Pierre. We've been bringing you that scene in Mint Hill, but Jessie's actually standing by for us in Dilworth near this system of hospitals. Jessie, I know we were seeing rumors that maybe this is where those officers were going. Do you have any update for us at this point?
As of right now, we've circled around the hospital and we haven't seen a major police presence. It doesn't mean that this is not where the officers who were shot are being transported or have been transported. But again, this is just a very, sad situation, right? You have 2 officers who were shot. Again, this started early this morning around 10:47 a.m. at an edible arrangement off of Matthews Mint Hill Road. And this is all surrounding or regarding a child custody exchange that took a violent turn. We know that during the interaction, the man who was involved produced a weapon, a gun, and there was a fire that was exchanged. 2 officers were shot, and then the man was shot and he died from his injuries. Again, we're here at the hospital and we are just kind of waiting to hear more details about the conditions of the officers who were involved. But while we've been waiting for that, we have been, there's a Mint Hill police car that just passed by a few minutes ago. Again, so we're just kind of waiting to see that presence. But, it is the holiday, so less officers could be working as well. And also, that could be a sign that the injuries may not be, as serious. We know that once a person is shot, they always say critical injuries because of a gunshot wound. But there's been a lot of outpouring support and prayers and different kind of sentiments like that for the officers. Congressman Pat Harrigan, for example, put out a post saying, praying for the two Mint Hill police officers and their families today. This is a painful reminder of the risk our officers take to protect their communities. And, one thing I've been seeing in a lot of the comments is that domestic related situations are usually some of the most dangerous calls for officers to respond to. So like we have in this case, Senator Tom Tillis also shared a post saying, Susan and I are praying for the Mint Hill police officers who were shot in the line of duty. Our hearts are with their families and fellow officers. God bless all those who serve and protect. So, we've been kind of seeing a lot of different posts and from, community and state leaders and so forth regarding this incident. Anytime you have officers who are injured doing their job, there's a lot of heartbreak that goes on, and folks are just kind of hoping that they are okay, that they make it through, especially during this time of the holidays. Julie?
Yeah, and Jesse, and that's so helpful that you are able to give us that insight. I know you've unfortunately covered multiple instances like this, so knowing that critical injury is really any gunshot wound, but we are hearing from the mayor and from witnesses on the scene that they were alert and awake. That definitely doesn't mean they're out of the woods, but it is some semblance of good news. Hopefully you'll continue to hear more in your reporting today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jesse.
Absolutely, Julie.
We're going to take another quick break, but we're getting right back after that scene when we're back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to WCNC Plus Live Impact News. You are taking a live look from Mint Hill right now, where we are learning in just the past couple of hours, 2 police officers are currently fighting gunshot wounds after being shot outside or inside of an edible arrangements in Mint Hill. This is a live look from that scene. We have been there since news broke just a few hours ago. Here's what we know right now. It appears this shooting happened during a child custody exchange. We heard from the general manager of a pizza place just across the street who told us two of his employees observed two police officers going into that edible arrangements to deal with whatever had been going on. When they left, one of them was covered in blood and the other one was calling for backup. Police confirming to us just a couple hours ago that the suspect in this case was killed. We do not know how that happened. We do not know if he was killed by police officers or if something else happened. It does appear that both of the police officers who were shot are reportedly awake and alert, but they are still listed in critical condition. It is worth noting, as our Jesse Pierre told us just before the break, that any time truly a police officer is shot, unless it is a very surface level wound, they will be listed in critical condition. So we are holding out our hopes and prayers that they will be okay. But this situation, absolutely tragic, just a day after the holiday, and as folks are getting ready for New Year's, it happening on a very, very, very busy part of Mint Hill. It's for those wondering, I'll get that exact address for you right now. It happened on Matthews Mint Hill Road, a very popular road with lots of businesses around in this area. Still no word yet about what may have led up to this shooting, and we will tell you we've seen several investigators from the SBI, police from Mint Hill, Mecklenburg County deputies, Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office members, and several different agencies responding to this scene. We are hopefully going to get a press conference soon. That is traditionally what happens whenever there is a situation of this gravity. When you look at the police officers being shot, that is kind of what we expect to see. No word yet on when that will be, but we can tell you that this will be brought to you live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus the second it happens. A truly tragic situation. Our Siobhan Riley is on the scene right now, and I actually just got a text from her seconds ago telling me that she is trying to talk to people and gather some new details about what happened. Because so far our best details have actually been from the people who were there when it happened. We had the opportunity to speak with a general manager of a pizza place from just across the street. Here's what he had to say.
His name Kevin, last name is spelled P-H-A-Y-M-E, pronounced Fame.
And then your title.
My title, I'm the general manager here at Empire Pizza in Mint Hill.
Perfect. So talk to us about what some of your employees shared with you today.
So, yes, a little earlier this morning, a couple of my employees were on a smoke break, and they were just on the side of the patio. They didn't hear gunshots, but they did see two officers enter into the edibles establishment. They saw one of the officers come out, had blood on his face, and he was being brought out by his partner, and he was down, and then we saw them go back in, like another officer went back in. We understand that the suspect was shot and killed. That's all we heard. But the officers here at Mint Hill, our hearts go out to them because they come to Empire Pizza often and they frequent here. So our prayers go out to them and their families. You know, it's unfortunate the day after Christmas that we have to hear something like this take place. So
I think sometimes
so sad.
It puts in perspective the dangerous job that police officers work. I mean,
absolutely. They're hardworking. They always keep Mint Hill. You never hear anything like this happening in Mint Hill because they do a great job of keeping the place safe, keeping the community safe. And, you know, whenever they stop through, we always try to make sure we take care of them and just thank them for their services that they provide to the community.
Can you describe what the scene was like out here, or what did your workers say the scene was like?
It was hard to say what the scene was like because it was everything happened so quickly. Just seeing an officer and blood on his hands and another one down. Once the paramedics arrived, they started to provide, they didn't have to provide CPR, which was a good sign, which we saw. But we did see that they were down and the EMS tended to him real quickly and, you know, got on it real fast.
Were the officers helping each other, or did it look look like they were confident or helping each other?
The officers were helping each other initially, and then once EMS arrived on the scene, they were really swift in responding, to helping the officer. We saw movement from the officer because once they had him on the gurney, we did see that. So that was a positive sign that we believe that he was okay. We did get word from one of the police officers that we are close friends with, that they said that he was, both officers are doing a little bit better. So our prayers just go out to them. We just, wish them all the best. So unfortunate, once again, that this took place day after Christmas.
And you said that when this happened, you told your staff to lock their doors.
Absolutely. Once we heard it, we didn't know because it happened so quickly. We didn't know if it was an active shooting taking place. So the response was just to come inside. Let's lock the doors until we get further information. Let's secure our business and make sure everybody's safe. And as the general manager, that's one of my duties, just to make sure that my team is safe, make sure everybody's okay. And then once we get word from law enforcement or the authorities, then we went ahead and then opened up for business. But it's so unfortunate to hear that.
Last thing for me, Kevin, and it's
Yes, sir.
what was it like to get that word that those officers are doing better?
That was comforting. Of course, our prayers still go out to them because nobody ever wants to receive that call, family members or their loved ones, that this took place any day, much less the day after Christmas. But to hear that they're at least in stable condition was definitely comforting. And like I said, our prayers are going to continue to go out to them.
So can you say and spell your name again for me?
Sure. First name Kevin, last name Fame, P-H-A-Y-M-E, pronounced Fame.
Thank you, Kevin.
My
That
pleasure.
Makes perspective,
Thank you.
that makes our
My
job
pleasure.
easier. Just
General Manager, Empire Pizza, Mint Hill.
So he's actually been our biggest insight into what really happened here so far. Of course, I will reiterate every time that we want to wait for Mint Hill PD before we can officially confirm and corroborate his statements here, of course. He did, though, give us some good insight into maybe this happened more inside the edible arrangement business than we originally suspected. Yes, that's where the call was placed. That doesn't always directly correlate to that being inside the business. He says at least part of that was inside. So that's an interesting tidbit that I'm curious to see if Mint Hill is able to confirm for us at a hypothetical press conference that we're expecting this afternoon. He also had some insight into the fear. He runs a business right nearby. He's worried about the safety of his staff. He didn't know at this point that it was a domestic situation. That, of course, creates a fear and awareness of I need to protect my own staff. He told them to lock the doors, especially because Kevin got a chance to see this unfold. He saw the blood on the officers right after, not knowing at this point what their condition was or what led up to this. Some of the questions that we still have. So very helpful insight from this general manager of Empire Pizza. Hoping to get a chance to talk to some more people who witnessed this or were at least in the area and have a sense of what this police station means to the area, the concerns people have right now in terms of safety, even though this is, of course, hopefully a cleared scene given the suspect has been killed. We're hoping to get some more answers for this soon. I know our Siobhan Riley is on scene right now talking to people, so hopefully going to check in with her very soon. Taking a quick break, but stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes with some of those questions that we are continuing to find answers to.